Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your moderator here at the Captain's Table. We're going to be talking about Star Citizen. If you've never seen this before, this is a podcast talk show-ish thing. It's also in podcast format, where I bring people from all over the community to talk about the game. Sometimes it's specific topics, sometimes it's general. Though I've been liking the idea of having a singular kind of theme to things. So I've been trying to do that as much as possible. So I found a nice theme with these two gentlemen here who are with me today. But before we get into that, let's introduce both of these guests. I'm going to fix Croncy because I think I have his camera all wrong.
Okay.
They're good. I think it's good. There we go. Starting off with Nick. Nick, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hey, it's Nick. I do a whole bunch of shenanigans in Star Citizen with amongst many Star Citizen content creators, and you can catch me out on Twitch TV/HeyItsNick and Twitter at HeyThisIsNick. So,
if you've seen the clip, which has been passed around my community multiple times, of Ionic Gecko drunk in game trying to leap from a 600 from 400's bay two stairs while we're in the atmosphere of Orison. The guy who follows after him, who tries to do it again, is Nick.
That was me.
That was Nick, whose character was also drunk in game. It was good times. Croncy, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I'm Croncy. I do a bunch of Star Citizen content creation, and you can find me on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter and all that. And I try to basically just play the game, but also do really silly things. Like we're going to be finding Pico balls for 24 hours next week, which will be interesting.
That's the theme today. We're going to talk a little bit about finding the fun in Star Citizen, the weird things you can do in Star Citizen to find some fun. But before that, let's talk a little bit more about the game itself for today. A little bit more of some of the new things that have happened, and then we'll get into that topic. The Expanse is now on sale. The Misk Expanse, the refinery ship, it's on sale for $135 for a war bond and $150 normally. It's kind of a smaller ship than some people had imagined. So let's just get your thoughts. Croncy, since you're the last person to introduce yourself, what are your thoughts on the Expanse?
So we've been waiting for the refinery ship for quite some time now. We first had them talk about it in 2019 CitizenCon, and it's pretty much exactly what I was expecting for a smaller refinery ship, but also a little bit cheaper than I was expecting. I thought it would be a bit more expensive based on the price of the Prospector. Until the Q&A comes out, or until we get a little bit more information on how the refinery ship gameplay loop is going to actually work, not a lot to take away from the ship other than its looks and sort of just what you like about Misk, I guess.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm excited. I think it's really cool. I think it's one of the better looking Misk ships because it doesn't look like a Freelancer or a Starfarer, so I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Just for context for people who don't know, the standalone price for Prospector is $5 more expensive than an Misk Expanse. So it's cheaper than a Prospector. Nick, your thoughts on the Expanse?
I was really disappointed that it ended at season 6.
I was waiting for someone to make that joke. I was waiting for it. The Misk Expanse.
Okay. The Misk Expanse. I think it's going to be a great ship. I think it's priced right at where it should be. I feel like all trade entry ships are around 150. And for the refinery, for the gameplay, I think it's going to be the same kind of gameplay that we're going to already have at stations. So I feel like I really want to see the gameplay added in, because outside of that, we kind of already have the gameplay at the refineries. It's just having it transferred to a ship and picking which pods you have, and what are the refinery rates going to be on it? Is it going to be slower than a station? Is it going to be faster than a station? What are going to be the incentives for players to want to use this ship over a station, or a station over this ship? Maybe they might make it faster on the ship, but because it has a smaller quantity, but maybe the stations will be good for the large bulk quantities you need, like when you get an Orion or many, many prospectors and moles. Maybe the amount of expanses you have just can't keep up with the amount you're mining. And I'd really like to see that kind of dynamic gameplay added in, hopefully when the Expanse comes in. I mean, we're getting hopefully the cargo refactor soon, TM. So then that and with the refinery gameplay with the Expanse, it definitely needs that cargo refactor. So the ship alone, I feel, is nothing without the gameplay, and I really hope they bring in the gameplay with that ship that it needs, because I feel like all the building blocks are what they have is either already in the game or coming in a patch or two, and I hope that it just comes in with the gameplay that it needs.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot further along than I thought it was. With they're already making like skins for it. They already have everything out. So it's obvious like they've made the exterior, at least in like the basic starting blocks of the exterior to kind of get the idea for the colors. But I agree with you. I think it's a fantastic little ship. The price is really good for what it is. I would suggest anyone who isn't immediately like, hey, I need to have a refinery ship for, my org anyway, so I'll just pick this up, to hold off on the Q&A, because as Nick points out, there's a lot of questions still about it. Like, how will it work? I mean, we all have concepts, ideas of how it might work, but CIG has proven that sometimes they'll take ideas that they have initially and completely change them around, or they'll show something off and then like during the Q&A they completely shut down the ideas that what it could have, but the ship could have been. So as always, it's a lot of money. So if you're unsure, wait until the Q&A to hear more about it. But I think it's a great thing. I think it's still weird. The name's still awkward. I think because of the show existence.
The show definitely makes it interesting, just because it's just like, oh, did you get the Expanse? Yeah, I have all 6 seasons. Why?
Why?
Like, no, the ship in Star Citizen.
Yeah. But
I mean, there's only so many sci-fi names that you can use, right? There was bound to be overlap eventually.
Yeah, so. But like they could have pulled something else. They could have done something crazy.
The Misk Star Trek.
There we go. The Misk Star Trek.
We're just waiting for the Misk Enterprise now.
Yes. which won't be a trading ship, because that'd be stupid. It'll be like
it's got to be an exploration military ship.
Yeah, it's gonna be a military ship.
Everything's a military ship.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about 317. 317 is in PTU. It's gotten a lot of patches here and there. Have both of you all played it so far?
Pretty thoroughly, yep.
Okay, so Nick, what are your initial thoughts on 317 as it stands right now? Well, it's still in PTU and is waiting being released. Has it lived up to the hype that it originally had? Is it a little bit worse, better? What are things that you found out from playing?
There's some really great quality of life improvements outside of just the desync fixes. I think everyone's well aware of how much they've improved the desync, especially with the pilots and ships. But a lot of little tiny tidbits of quality of life are just thrown and sprinkled throughout, especially with the UI improvements, with shops and everything. For instance, now you can actually type in the quantity with your keypad. You don't need to be hitting buttons and everything. And just that alone wasn't even mentioned anywhere. But that just being able to type in, I want 86 magazines, is just an improvement instead of having to type and click repeatedly. And there's a lot of little tiny quality of life changes there. So I think a big improvement is all the little details that have improved steadily. I still feel like there's a lot of rough patches right now in PTU, especially with unequipping and equipping equipment on gear. Like some gear you can't unequip, and that's just the bugs that come with PTU that they need to flesh out before it comes live. But I think, especially with the river, they're going in a really good direction of like what they're adding in each patch now. And I feel like each patch is adding something substantial, and it's showing that each quarter is actually moving the game forward in pretty larger steps now toward the end of the year. And Yeah, I'm really excited to see. Hopefully, they get this all like fleshed out and cleared up, and makes it nice and smooth released for live. But you never know with game dev, and but I think it's a really good. It's heading in a really good direction. It definitely fell out of the gate at first.
Yeah. Croncy, your thoughts so far? Is 317 lived up to the hype? What are some of the things you've taken away from it? Goods, bads?
So great experiences from my end so far. The shopping experience is way better. The FPS missions feel a lot more rewarding, although I enjoyed them beforehand already. With the all the actual rare loot in there that we can grab, as well as we're able to pick up a bunch of Hadonite and Aphorite and whatever, so that we can actually store those and sell those. The river looks amazing. I'm very excited to race on it at some point. It's a great point of interest. The clouds over Loreville, it's an experience coming down for the first time, flying into Loreville. As you come through the clouds, you get the water on the windshield, and then you just see this like muck-filled, I don't know, muck-filled smog as you're coming through. It's a really, really cool experience. Yeah, overall, a patch that I'm really happy with. Refueling kind of feels weird because other than testing it, there's no real reason for it to be in the game yet. But the mechanic itself is really well done. I'm actually really impressed. Making it this very hands-on, almost skill-based, like how good are you at refueling as fast as possible without any spillage, So yeah, overall having a good time with it. But the mining changes. So the mining gadgets are awesome. They're really good. So for those that don't know, I do a lot of mining. I've got in the last 2 years, I've got over 1,000 hours of mining in Starset. The mining gadgets are great, and they will be a great experience for new players because finally a rentable prospector is actually profitable. But they made a bunch of changes to scanning ranges that was sort of not talked about. So you now need to be within, I believe it's 1.25 kilometers to just find out if there are rocks in that scanned box. And you need to be within 275 meters to scan them at all.
Oof.
Yeah.
Is that just the prospector, or is that the prospector and the mole?
So far, that's just the prospector, but from what I've heard, it's from other people, it is the mole as well. Haven't had a chance to check it out myself, but other people are saying it's also the mole. I have heard a spicy rumor that there's possibly 10k or larger mass rocks now, but I haven't come across any of those myself.
Oh, interesting. I'll say my experience with 317 is much more limited. I haven't played a ton of it. But I will say that obviously the desync issues are like the desync fixes are great. One of the things I immediately tried to discover was, can you sell the gowns from the hospitals? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. It's 5 UEC. So keep your gowns and sell them.
Yep.
They listened to us for that. I also say that whatever they're giving, whatever gameplay aspect is being taken over by Montreal, the Turbulent Montreal team, just give them that. Just let them do it, because they don't just make the game; they make the game immersive and fast. They make everything really quickly. The Maria Pure of Heart, which is when I thought was just going to be a hospital, the first time I walked in there, it was an experience I wasn't expecting, which is why I guess I'm still glowing about it. Which is, it captures the feeling of Loreville, of the grimy, the downtrodden, the out of touch rich leaders of this planet. Everything, it's almost the worker dystopia of Loreville is just oozing out of the Maria Pure of Heart, from the various innuendos about the various Hurstons, the announcers over the voice, over the box, everything. It just feels so scummy. It feels scummy, and I love it.
It does, yeah.
And it caused me to sit down and listen to other things. For instance, do you know that in the Loreville customs area, they tell you to make sure to check your flora and fauna because they care about their environment at Hurston, which is a joke.
It's a joke. You really care about our environment. Meanwhile, you just had to come through like a massive amount of smog.
Yeah, I'm just with garbage around the city. So that's a huge change in terms of like CIG has always been done a pretty good job of telling environmental stories, but like Loreville, I think, is now a case study in how the game should feel and how Star Citizen going forward, how CIG going forward should really make the universe feel lived in. There's still some more things to go, but like everything else is golden. It feels like a good quality of life patch that adds a lot of stuff. I've even heard rumors, this is not confirmed whatsoever, that they may have implemented the entity graph into this patch, which is like a step before persistence. It's the thing that allows for Quanta to work, which we know Quanta is in the game too, that affects prices for fuel and repair. So there's a lot of back end stuff too, which are affecting the game, which we haven't really seen. So, but I do know, just before we started recording, Moist Noodle rated and was saying like it's just like this is the best time he's ever played the game. The last 4 days is the best time he's ever played Star Citizen in terms of just the whole feel of the game. So, all right, let's get to the topic at hand, the main topic, which I'm going to preface this by saying I frequently, and I'm sure a lot of us have also had this, frequently get when we're doing streams or doing content, a new player comes in and asks the question, what do you do in Star Citizen? What is the game about? What do you even do in the game? And I've thought about that question a lot, and I've realized it's the wrong question for Star Citizen, but it's based off of the expectations of games over the last 20, 30 years, where the expectation of a game is you're supposed to sit there and content is served to you on a platter. Like you're just handed a tray of content, and you're just like play this. This is your goal. Beat the big bad. Find save the universe. Whatever. There's a goal involved, and here's the content to get to that goal. And Star Citizen, at its core, is a sandbox, and as a result, it's not so much what do you do in Star Citizen, but what can you do in Star Citizen? And with that in mind, I wanted to talk with y'all because I know both y'all do a bunch of different stuff. You're doing 24-hour Picoball stream, for heck's sake. Like what are things you've done in Star Citizen has nothing to do with missions or events or gameplay stuff. What have you done in the game that makes it different? Croncy, why don't you start with us that one?
So probably one of the biggest things that I jump into when, maybe there's no dynamic events or there's no new patch to check out and no new mechanics or whatever, is I do a lot of Star Citizen racing. For me specifically, ground racing, but I also talk a lot with the guys that do the flat racing and whatnot. And it's huge. There are these huge communities that will just every weekend we're going to get 30 people together and we're going to go for a race and we're going to chuck either some UEC prizes or maybe someone will sponsor a startership prize or something like that. So yeah, I there's a ton of things out there to do. It's the main thing. There's a ton of these communities for racing, for mining, for military, which I think Nick does a bunch of. Yeah.
Have you you were hosting the Crux Cup recently too, which was what can you describe the Crux Cup for people who may not know what they did, just to give an example of what a race in Star Citizen might look like?
Yeah, so the Crux Cup is probably one of the more hardcore races, I'll call it, because they follow a very similar rule set to an F1 race. You've got infractions, you've got your starting grids. And it's a lot of fun. So we did the Crux Cup. We did a full 1 hour track. Whoever completed the most laps in that hour, won within their division. And I think we ended up with 32 signups, I think, total was for that one, with some serious prizes and stuff. People are throwing money into these events.
Awesome. Nick, what are some things you've done in Star Citizen?
Well, The main thing I do in Star Citizen right now that definitely helps me get through the lows in between each patch that we all experience when we're just trying to like had enough of the patch and we just kind of like we're waiting for the next one. As I ended up joining a Milsim org, and they do large org v orgs events, and they have gone against Detox's org and everything. And but yeah, the UE Pathfinders is like kind of like something that I branched out to and looked for just an experience in Star Citizen, because I've always I want to keep playing Star Citizen even in these lulls. It's just one of those things of what do I do in my time, but when I'm bored of missions, when I'm bored of doing that, when I don't want to fight people. So what really is, I joined a Milsim org, and that has completely changed the way I view Star Citizen, is especially doing these org v orgs. And in a Milsim org, it's a very kind of role play oriented, but also at the same time very serious, in kinds of how you're supposed to do things and how they want you to do things in their org. And it's made the experience when we go into org v orgs very interesting. And we also do our own little exercises, and that will include a civilian population with full on role play, and you're being like, a Marine squad being like, okay, you got to PID your targets, you got to go up to these people, ask them what's wrong. And it's an entire large 50-player role played event that these orgs put on, and it's insanely fun and super engaging. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of people don't really they have an idea of that it's happening, but they don't know that like this is actually something that's really interesting. Like these orgs don't just do FPS; these orgs also do PvP in ships, and they do full on naval battles in space. And it's just they touch kind of everything that Star Citizen has, and they throw in roleplay and Milsim on top of it. And it's kind of like a full Star Citizen experience when you go into these large events that are just run by players, nothing to do with the game, and they have these just amazing experience that you can't get in any other game.
It reminds me a lot about like with like Arma. I know there's a bunch of Milsim groups that do like Arma stuff. That's with Arma that's similar. But with Star Citizen, it's such a vastly different experience just because of the scope and size. I'll chip in. One of the things I do for fun is monthly or patchly. I do bar crawls where I'll literally just get people together, and we'll all start at the bar in Loreville, which is I can't remember the name of it, and then go to each of the named bars in all of the landing zones. So we go from Loreville to ArcCorp, from ArcCorp to Crusader, in Crusader we do Orison and Grimhex, and then all the way to Microtech. And flying together while drinking alcohol in game, while your character gets pretty messed up pretty quickly if you're not careful, is funny and fun and interesting. You add in bugs.
Are we not supposed to drink it out of game as well? Was I doing it wrong?
You're wrong. But it's really fun because it's just people walking around. The idea that you could do a bar crawl in the game like Star Citizen is off the wall. Where's the other one? There was something that was done in the past called Gray Cat Sumo, where people would take gray cats in a little circle and pound against each other with the gray cats to try to knock each other out of like a certain area, and whoever won before blowing up, be able to do without blowing up, won.
I remember I was in like a massive one way back when Rexzilla was still on Twitch, and he did like a 50-player one. I was in that one, and that was crazy. Just gray cats crashing into each other, exploding until the last one standed.
And then there's also surfing, where you can like rip pieces off of certain ships and then jump on top of them, and then you can like snowboard down.
You can do that.
Things. I used to be able to bodyboard, where if you like went prone and you crawled up to a certain part of a ledge. Once you got to a ledge where the character could no longer prone, you ragdoll, and if you ragdoll at the right moment, you would ragdoll down the hill. And because you were ragdolling, your damage was reduced, so you could just ragdoll down hills like for all the way down mountains effectively while trying to doing like getting air sometimes and doing all sorts of crazy stuff like that.
Jumping out of ships and catching them falling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of silly stuff you can do.
Croncy, I know you're doing that 24-hour pickleball stream. What is a pickleball? So people who don't know.
So pickleball is, I think it was roughly whenever patch 3.13 came out. I don't know time-wise when that was, but it was roughly around then. They did a Star Citizen Live with, I believe it was the prop team, and they just created this like little pickleball prop. So Pico is the penguin from Microtech, and they turned it into a ball, right? Relatively simple. It then turned out, we've gotten told from Disco that they're in the game. The Pico balls are in the game, and there should be 9 of them, I believe, if I've done my research correctly. And from what I've seen, only 1 has ever been found. So yeah, sometimes you can do stuff like that. You can go when there's not much to do in the game, you can go and explore and go and find stuff like Pico balls.
And with 317, Pico balls are very, very profitable. You can find them and sell them.
They said that they would be sellable. Yeah.
Yes. So, if I remember correctly with Pico balls, that I think it was from the Halloween episode. I forgot what it was. Jared made the original Pico ball, and then they turned it into an in-game prop and that kind of stuff. But it's a weird thing like that. People may have not heard of Bennyhenge. That's another place. Like there's lots of little locations like the river. Bennyhenge is another place.
Yeah, you can go explore Berryhenge. You can go to the Down Javelin. Like that's a very fun place to hang out with a community of people. You can go find Big Oof. Not a lot of people know about Big Oof, but go find Big Oof. It's a lot of fun.
What's Big Oof? I haven't even heard of Big Oof.
So Big Oof is one that it kind of feels like you're glitching, but it's not. On Orison, above one of the platforms, I believe it's Providence platform, where the where they're actually creating the Hercules. You can jump out of bounds and find a little Easter egg that they've put on one of these signs.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, yeah, nice. There's also the campfire, the Christmas campfire at Microtech.
Yeah, with the snowman and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of little Easter eggs, places you can go find and discover. Many people don't know that Grimhex has an entire zero G wing where you can go zero G. It's like a secondary entrance you can go through.
It's a great workaround for when the elevators don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is, someone mentioned in chat, there's also there's a huge low flying community as well that are just based on, hey, we're just going to do some cool stunt flying, right? And that's how you can have fun, right?
Yeah.
I will say a lot of these things, they're very community based. And so anytime someone does come in that says, hey, I'm new to the game, don't know what to do, I've done some missions, whatever, but I feel like I'm lost, join communities. It's the most important thing, I think, in order to have fun.
Just hang out with other people. Find somebody who's interested in doing stuff like this. Gosh, what was the other thing I was going to try to think about? With Nick, with your milsim stuff. There's also lots of emergent gameplay stuff that happens with people. I know Detox, for instance, will do things where he'll make sure that he gets the highest wanted level in a game. And then he's done something where he's gone into one of those caves where the only entrance you have to fly into, parked their ships inside, and then took out railguns. And then as these ships would come down, these bounty hunters would come down, there were 17 of them would just pop out of corners and just railgun the thing to death. And they'd continually do that.
Yeah,
I've had an org event in those caves, and let's just say once you have an entrenched enemy in those caves, you don't want to be the one to go in and get them out. It's so hard. The one our org tried to do that, and the other org was actually real world Marines, and let's just say we eventually took them out, but they were leaning on extending the time by 5 minutes to give us another push in. And let's just say you don't want to be on that end.
You also have things like what I discovered with Jumptown, which is the signature of ballistas is very low. So you can do something similar where you can kind of goat people into coming chasing after you, have someone in the ship that's super, wanted, so someone will come and get the bounty to come look for you. And you can fly there. If you can survive, you can try to fly over where ballistas, ballistas are. And if you fire a ballista at less than 2 kilometers, the other ship will not be able to dodge. So I've had moments at Jumptown where, they literally kited them right over me. And as they're coming in, the missile goes up and it's just, that the to be continued meme, or, hey, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here, or just, oh no, moment. Yeah, at this moment he knew. It's that just to see it explode and fall the pieces behind you. So there's lots of like little things like that, but it's all community based. Yeah, as Croncy said, it's all community based. It's all stuff that communities will do. I know people have wanted to do road trips where they'll get into ships or vehicles and just drive from point to point.
I have fully navigated moons on just a hover quad, just by making a challenge to be like, I'm going to start at this outpost on this hover quad. Let's see how many outposts I can go, stop, refuel at, and keep going and going and going. And so maybe I could go around the moon. And people have even done microtech now, and like gone all around microtech after like one stop after one stop. And it's just like I've also like challenged myself to actually learn to navigate the moons and everything with just the compass on the hover bikes and using the star map. So I'm not even having another ship to point the direction I'm going in. I'm not asking for any help. I'm doing this completely solo as like a self challenge to be like, I'm leaving this outpost here. Here's my position. Here's where I am on the star map. I want to go here. I need to be heading northwest from here. And going 300 kilometers in a direction you hope is right, and just checking the star map to make sure you're, changing your aisles. It's a awesome challenge to navigate moons like that as well.
Yeah. It's so there's a lot of like little things like that which you can add to the fun, but it's definitely more fun with other people, for sure. Yeah, I think that's just a little shorter for this topic. Unless there's anything else y'all can think about of things that you might do.
Role play.
We
haven't even talked about the role play in Star Citizen. I mean, your bar call touched on it a bit, because a lot of people do just role play drunk and everything, or are actually drunk.
Yeah,
but
there's people like Mythmatic who play the game completely in character and go off and do things. There'll be people who offer bounties to get them out of prison. Like, hey, I'll pay you money if you come get me out of prison, man. PvPers who go and interact with other players to try and get a bounty off of them. They're engaging in roleplay right there. They might not think they're doing it for roleplay, but that's kind of what roleplay is right there. You're being an aggressor and interacting with a player to try and get, and it's Star Citizen just opens up a whole can of GTA 5 type roleplay. Yeah.
But just through normal gameplay alone. So I think roleplay is just a part of Star Citizen as much as PvP is a part of Star Citizen. And just by playing the game and interacting with people through the gameplay systems is going to be very much introducing people to a lot of roleplay at first. And they'll be like, oh, we're going to go have an 890 party after this. It's like, what's an 890 party after this? After we go raid these people, it's like, well, come find out. And, just put on these suits, put on that. And next thing you know, you're talking about like what you've been doing in the verse to other people at the bar. And, you're just talking about what you've done in game, and you're now role playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's crazy.
There's large numbers of communities who are listening. Like there's an entire community. I forgot who it is. If it's Macton or I forget. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting who the name of it is. There's somebody who's doing an entire role play like scenario, centered around Loreville. That's being worked on as well. It's a community thing. So we're like you can do certain things and add points to one side or another. There's piracy. A lot of people don't realize that piracy is in the game. It's not really entirely viable, but people will. if you build it, CIG players will break it. So people will find a way. They'll like life finds a way. They'll find a way of making money off of it.
Even stuff just as simple as like there's ship meets. Like I see posts about ship meets all the time, which is awesome because it's really good for new players. They get to experience a bunch of like, hey, I've never seen an 890J, and now I get to walk through one because someone's brought it to random outpost on Daymar.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like there's often a lot of people getting together for those sort of big events where they'll bring ships over to kind of show off the ships for everybody, and they're all unique ships and such.
Fleet meets.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Machinima, that's a big thing that's happening in Star Citizen right now, where there's a lot of content creators making machinima and creating stories and cinematic masterpieces almost just in Star Citizen and with the camera events. And that's another entire area that's kind of on the RP side, but more on the scripted, very much choreographed side. And there's just so many possibilities to do things outside of gameplay in Star Citizen that it's just like you can do whatever you want really in it. It's just you need to know what you can do in Star Citizen first before you can start asking what you want to do. Yeah,
this is my point. I think the mentality that a lot of players should come into is what can you do in Star Citizen rather than what do you do, just because there's just so many different options. I used to do a thing where I used to call hitchhiker nights, where I would stow away on people's ships. So I became very good at learning how people. Here's a tip: gamers don't look up.
They don't.
They don't. So if you want to try to sneak aboard someone's ship, if you go, especially on a pad, if you can EVA just above the ship. As they're getting in through the back of the ship, especially if it's got like a back entrance, you can jump down onto the ramp before they can close it. And often they forget to close it when they leave. So, so you could do things like you can sneak aboard ships and kind of walk around. I've had ideas of doing, because there's actually in lore a group called the Church of the Journey, which is a kind of more of a philosophy than a religion, but the whole philosophy, like the hardcore tenets of the philosophy, are to never have a home. And so there is there are like stories in lore about people who will just go to other like captains and be like, hey, I need a ride. I'm a member of the Church of the Journey. Can I join you? And because they can't pay for anything. They have to get rides everywhere they go. It's be for free. And everything has to be paid for them. So like they can't buy food, they can't buy passage. They need to get help from strangers. The whole concept is life is a journey as you spend with other people. And that's the point, is to kind of do that. So I've thought about doing that before too. Just walk around and be like, hey, can I just hang out with you for today, walk around, be on your ship, not even playing this thing. So there's tons of little things you can do with those sorts of elements, especially with interacting with other players. And CIG loves those sorts of things because that's what they want to do. They want people to see. So if you are looking to make a name for yourself, if you've got, like, say, an organization and you want to make yourself known to more people, doing these sorts of events or doing these sorts of activities often gets the attention of CIG community members or developers who will then pass that along. Because this is really cool. Check this out, and they'll promote it even further. So it's even more of an incentive to try to do sort of these more sandboxy activities. So, and as Star Citizen continues to grow, we'll have more of the tools to be able to do more crazy stuff. So. Yeah, well,
yeah, exactly. Like, think about just quickly. I think about in regards to a lot of those things we're talking about. Refueling has just come out, right?
Yeah.
Think about what that's going to add to a lot of those. Even milsim operations, the racing, all that stuff. So it gets more integrated as we go on.
Yeah, especially
think about the river. Yeah, like look at the river right now. The river's a massive meeting place because there's only one river, and everyone wants to go check out the river. So as soon as they add a gameplay element of you can loot, you can find this rare thing, or maybe there's fauna spawning there that you want to hunt, then that just becomes feeling alive and dynamic and systemic, and you can bump into players and be like, hey, what are you doing here? And there's just so many opportunities that just adding one simple thing has a cascading effect on. And that's just what I'm looking forward to in Star Citizen, and what I think a lot of players can look forward to in Star Citizen is just all these things might seem small to people who are just looking for a game to play. But once you just start playing with other people and interacting with other people, all these small things turn into like an entire world to explore. And it's great.
Yeah, I mean, with fuel, for instance, people always mention the fuel rats in Elite. I think it's one of the biggest aspects of Elite is the fuel rats, because people remember them. If you're in Elite, there's like two things. There's For the Mug and fuel rats. I think are the two biggest aspects of the game that people even outside of the Elite community will hear about if you are even tertiary involved in it. Just outside of the community, if you're just kind of paying attention to Elite's news.
I got that mug.
Yeah. and I Star Citizen's just added medical gameplay, and now they're added refueling gameplay. I wouldn't be surprised in the near future if we start seeing people who are just basically rescue operators, especially as the game progresses forward, where people will just show up and refuel your ship for free, or save you, from rescue you from survival situations, or from being downed and that kind of stuff, like chat saying trauma team, or like a park ranger almost. So yeah, those are sort of other elements of the game which use gameplay tools, but they're not missions. They don't just make you money. They don't just do these sorts of things. They're things that are nothing in the game is pushing you towards that. There's no CIG, there's no marker that'll say, go here for fuel rats. You'll have to kind of make your own fun at times, especially when there's content drought and that sort of stuff. These are things you can always turn to find more interesting and varied ways to play the game. So, all right, I think I tried to stop it about 15 minutes ago because I thought we were done, but we had more things to talk about. That's just there's probably stuff we're missing from our conversation even today.
Just because I threw out the word role play, it opened an entire can of worms that we just went down on.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we even probably didn't touch. So I'm going to use this to plug for YouTube. If you have more ideas of how you play the game, maybe you play the game that has a way that we haven't even thought about or heard about, tell us down below in the comments. What are you looking forward to? Those sorts of things. Make sure that you're following these two wonderful content creators and their channels, Croncy and HeyItsNick. And we're going to move on to our question and answer session. So if you're watching this live, just stick around for a few minutes. We're going to take a small break. We'll still be live and everything. Then we'll roll right into the questions and feel free to ask questions in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact or listening to this on the podcast after the fact, will be the next episode for the next part of this episode should be up in about a day or so for you to listen for those as well. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.